What's going on, YouTube, y'all squad? This is your boy Yakutees, and this is your review for The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 12, Episode 14. This is the reunion part 1. I do want to say this was very chaotic, and I really hate doing reunions because it's so much dialogue. I did not write down everything. I'm going to try to expound on what I can, and whatever I miss, we could just keep the conversation going in the comments. So, let's go ahead and jump into it. So, Andy's making his round. Well, not making his rounds, but kind of going through talking to all the ladies because they're currently on the stage. Jen, we find out that she took out her new chin because she had a chin implant. Took that out. Her nose is settled. That's good. Jackie is doing better when it comes to her journey, and I believe she said that she's added on a nutritionalist, which is good. Teresa is engaged. Had an emergency appendix surgery, so she's not allowed to scream. Yeah, so Dolores got a man at Holmes. Yeah, and apparently the L word has been thrown around. So we start off with the Dolores versus Jackie package. And Andy asked the women, so if you were in a dark alley, who would you be more afraid of, Dolores or Teresa? And that's because we almost saw Dolores go there with Jackie. Most of them say they would be scared of Dolores. I would agree. Jackie is asked about why was she upset about the this comment, which I'm looking at Andy like, okay, now you. I understand he's hosting the show. It is a legit question, but you understood why. And she said, I'm very accomplished. So to diminish me like that, it's a problem. But also to say, refer to somebody as this, in essence, you're taking their humanity away from them because that is still a person. And when you do stuff like that, it does get very dangerous. History will tell you that. Dolores' duplicitous nature is brought up in terms of how she was on Jen's side, and then all of a sudden saying that Jen was justified in her actions, but was on the other side of the fence. And Dolores just like, when everything was presented initially, yes, I was on your side. When I found out that you were going and searching for information, not just searching for information, but involving my ex husband, then yeah, now I can understand why this heat was coming your way. So Jen wants to know whose idea was it to bring up the digging? Was it Dolores' idea or was it Frank's idea? My thing, because she wants to know why it was brought to the cameras, but here's the reality. You want to sit here and start at the end. The thing is, you shouldn't worry about who brought it. You should worry about why you were so willing to do these actions. But we don't want to talk about that. Um, D'Lo says she had no idea that any of this was going on. Jen feels that D'Lo jumped ship, and we find out that next season, like, cause Dolores and Teresa are on the outs. You can start to see this right here. You could really can start to see it, and there's more. D'Lo tell, and then the whole comment about Dolores telling her Jen not to cry came up, and people thought that it was insensitive, and she was like, before pretty much that scene was shot, she had already talked to her, and was telling her, when you come see these ladies, do not cry. Be strong, because that's how Dolores is. She's very stoic. You not finna see her break down. And then even Jen said to her, if you see me about to cry, tell me not to. But when you get in the moment, you want to sit here and flip the script. Okay, Jen. So D'Lo claims that she defends her, and Jen's like, when? And they show a package of Dolores defending her to a fault. And then she's called not a good friend. And Dolores like, you know what? Done. Like, I'm not finna do this. We're done. Teresa is as if she feels as if Dolores has been a good friend to Jen. And rather than answer the question, Teresa's like, well, Jen, when she said don't cry, she was just trying to tell you to be strong. I don't like how Andy allows certain people to not answer certain questions, but we're going to continue on. So the rumor comes up, and look, chaos ensues on stage, and I wasn't going to sit here and write down who said what about what. So Jackie's comment comes up about Bill Nye, putting his Johnson in another woman's pocketbook. And Jen is asked, when you watched it back, did you understand the content? And she was like, I did. And then of course there was a but. Dolores is asked like, why would you even offer that information? And Jack's just like, look, I understand it was a tit for tat. It is like Jack's just like, I understood what it was. And my only thing is, did Dolores intentionally twist the information, or is that just how she recalled it? We don't know. And Jackie had even said, my reason for saying that is I did not like that Jennifer was shouldering the blame for something that her husband did. And because these women are very male identified and they literally exist within the realm of this patriarchy that we all, I mean, like they truly exist in it. A lot of their values come from that. Not the case with Jackie. So when Jackie whole thing is you're over here in shambles and whatnot, none of the blame is being put on your husband, and you're sitting here making yourself to feel bad like you did something where you did nothing wrong. And yes, there are times where people contribute to someone cheating, but when the smoke clears, if somebody cheats, regardless of what factors played into it, you still made a conscious decision to do something. Anyway, na, 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 na. Teresa doesn't feel that Jackie is classy, which Jackie's better than me because I would have been like, really, from the same woman that sat here and tried to flip a table season one, same person that pushed down Andy at the season one reunion, same person that called me to see you next Tuesday a plethora of times when I use an analogy, same person that then called her white trash. Like I would literally go down the list of, oh, I'm not classy. Oh, I know you're one to talk, but whatever. D'Lo and Jackie, they say they cool, and I like to see that. Now, what needs to happen? Because I don't know how this reunion gonna play out, but if it play out the way that I think it's gonna play out, D'Lo, what you need to do is now your new man is your storyline, but we just can't rest on that. I'm gonna need for you to go ahead and team up with the other couch and do what it is you got to do because there's I'm just saying. And y'all know how Teresa is, so and Teresa was instrumental in getting her own family kicked off the show. D'Lo, you're disposable to her. You are. The love bubble comes up. I swear, I don't ever want to hear love bubble after this reunion wraps. Teresa says Louis didn't sign up for this, but he signed release papers to be on the show, so he did sign up for this. Andy talks about the rumor and said before Marge even said anything this season, at last year's reunion, I even mentioned the fact that there were things out there about Louis. So regardless, these things were going to come up. So with that being said, I appreciate Andy for that because literally he just took the steam out of her engine. But Teresa's just going to press on forward. Teresa says, when she married Joe, she wasn't in love. Okay, and here's the thing. That's fine. We understand that a lot of people marry for stability and not necessarily love. It happens. There's nothing wrong with that. Prenup talk comes up, and she says, you know what, that's between her and Louis. And Andy's whole thing is, look, I'm looking out for you. And Teresa said, oh, well, he has more than me. We've seen it to where the man has more and then the woman ends up having more, and people get mad that the man wants half and spouse support and all of that other stuff. So though I don't like Teresa, get a prenup, baby. So the engagement party comes up. We find out that Jen and Melissa were present, but Dolores wasn't. Dolores pretty much wasn't upset about it, but it started to make her feel uncomfortable when people would bring it up to her. And she called Teresa, and Teresa was like, well, I wanted couples there. And D-Lo was just like, all right, cool. Even though you could still tell that Dolores was her. Melissa's whole thing is, so you only wanted couples there, but she been your ride or die since how long? Oh, okay. So then the bridesmaid, I was about to sound like Nene. The bridesmaids come up, and initially Melissa didn't feel a way about not being a bridesmaid for Teresa, but then when she found out that Teresa's soon-to-be sister-in-laws were going to be bridesmaids, then that did make her feel a way. Which is like, oh well, okay. And Melissa is obviously hurt about that, and Melissa then brings up, even at the engagement party, how You want to talk about family and everything, but you and your soon to be family were all at one table, and then your brother, me, and your nieces, I'm sorry, your niece and nephew, I believe that's correct, are at a completely separate table. And Teresa's like, oh, well, I had no control over the seating arrangement, which I call BS on that, especially for somebody like Teresa. I'm pretty sure that you will be very involved unless Louis was the one that set all that up. But and Joe said this, and because Joe came out right after this, she could have easily made that thing right to where I would have been like, I know this is gonna sound weird, but whoever was sitting closest at the table, I would have had them switch tables with my with my sibling and their family, just to keep the tension down because the optics are always going to be bad. Now Teresa's upset because, well, if you were a real sister-in-law, you wouldn't bring this up to throw it in my. Again, I swear I cannot with Teresa. I really can. And then Teresa makes a comment. No, I'm sorry. Melissa was like, "You were my bridesmaid." She was like, "Yeah, and I was pregnant. And then I had the baby afterwards. A real sister-in-law would have pushed the wedding back so I could have had my baby." The try not to use a lot of profanity. The delusion. Like so, and again, people have made it to where Teresa Star shines brighter than everybody else. That everybody has to accommodate her. This is why she has this mindset, and this was kind of discussed in the last review. So Joe joins, and he's asked about the bridesmaid situation. Melissa is like, "Baby, just let it go." Which I understand her saying that, but at the same time, Melissa, you really haven't had a storyline, and sometimes a reunion can be that bit of redemption. Let your brother talk. So Joe felt that Teresa was wrong and being very disrespectful. Melissa is tired of this false narrative of family where you speak about family, but your moves, your actions are not that because you don't call your brother, you don't do this. But when you get in front of these cameras, it's all family, family, family. When it's nothing but optics. And when I tell y'all, I know about that. I know about the face narratives and the farce and the circus that be going on. I get it. So Teresa will not let Joe speak, which is very irritating. And typically, when you have someone that is not willing to allow a person to have at least get out a complete sentence without jumping in, that lets you know that party is guilty. And what they're trying to do is, and I'll use Chicago, Illinois, for example, which is where I'm at. So we're having a conversation. We in Chicago, Illinois. We just driving a straight line distance. But you keep wanting to sit here and have me turn, do all this other stuff. So rather than us staying in Chicago, Illinois, we didn't ended up in Indianapolis somewhere, in Indiana, and Wisconsin somewhere with the conversation. And you people do this so there's no accountability. And because we've taken so many different turns, we don't even remember what we were initially talking about. Y'all better watch. So Teresa is I'm sorry. Jen decides she wants to shed light on, the Louis and Teresa situation for Melissa. And her thing is, well, because she loved him so much, is that she felt like you should have sided with her when Marge came at her. And then Teresa saying, yeah, because you should have told Marge, say one more thing, and we're not going to be friends anymore. I really appreciated that later in this episode they showed the counter argument to everything Teresa was saying with how she treats Melissa and Joe. I was so happy to see that. I really was. I really was. But anyway, Teresa is asked about having Melissa's back. She starts stuttering, then there's a blackout. I was just like, the Lord's trying to tell you something. And then she was like, oh, well, with Jen, I had her back then. Anyway, so I put somebody versus Joe. Who? Hold on for a second. I can't even read my own writing now. All right, well, somebody versus Joe. So he was hurt, and the nieces versus Joe. Okay, all right, there it is. He says that he was hurt and he needed more time in reference to going back and forth with the girls. And then Teresa's asked by a viewer, how can you let your daughters talk to their uncle like that? Because if that happened to my family, I would be appalled. Which is understandable, but at the same exact time, this is because we all were brought up in such a way to where a certain demographic is given respect. They can say and do whatever they want. They can cause mental trauma onto people, and you're supposed to skin, grit, and bear it. And that has helped put people into toxic relationships and situations. And like I said, Gia had every right to voice her opinion. Now, was her tone out of place? Yes. Was her being passive aggressive wrong? Yes. Rather than coming right out and just saying what she needed to say to her uncle, there were points on both sides that I understood. But I'm not going to sit here and say that this young adult did not have the right to say what she needed to say. Because trust me, if my nieces and my nephew got something they want to say to me, hey, you have all the right to do it. My only thing is, if I'm not coming at you with some rah rah, don't come at me like that. Like I said, we're adults. I'm cool headed. We can talk about it, and you can articulate exactly what it is, and we can find a common solution. Now at the same exact time, and I'm not gonna pull rank and be like, I'm your uncle. I was doing this. I could, but I'm not going to. But I will let them know the moment you decide to get disrespectful with me, trust and believe I'm going to treat you like I would treat anybody else that is sitting here talking to me like they lost their mind. That's all I'm gonna do. But whatever you gotta say, you can say it. I'm secure. Anyway, Joe says, our kid, because you had Teresa that was, because it was the whole comments about the fathers and everything. And Teresa's like, well, my kids have to watch this and see the stuff they do. And they're like, our kids watch this too. Like, how would you feel if they heard these different things? And then they played back all the clips of, Teresa allowing people to talk about them. And I will admit, Joe and Melissa have done the same thing too. I'm just saying. Also, her pretty much calling Melissa a gold digger amongst all of these other things. So it's both ways on both sides. So then the little B-boy comment comes up. And Teresa's like, well, I don't see how that's a big deal, and da 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 da. And Joe's just like, out of here. Now, it was just one of those, like, man, if you don't get that up out of here. Now, you have Jen. I did not like this. Because she was like, oh my God, you just air slapped you. He really, because she called him a B girl. Now, he done went from being a little B boy to now you're misgendering him. Because she knows what she's doing. She knows that Joe's identity is tied to his masculinity. So she knew what she was doing. Again, I'm not mad at her for doing it because I told y'all, this is me speaking, if we're at a war of words, nothing and no one is off limits to me. And if I know your Achilles heel, I'm coming for it. I'm cutting it. It just is what it is. So then Teresa calls her brother a housewife. Now, here's again, I'm not mad at her for doing it. But now you know what you're doing. So not only are you siding with a person that has come at your brother and you are asking for loyalty that you're not willing to give, she literally just came at his masculinity twice. Now you're coming for his masculinity. And I wrote down here, Joe feels his masculinity is under attack. He's not going to say that, but it's the subtext. It's being able to watch and see what is going on. And next thing you know, Joe says he quits. Because at this point, it's just too much. Do I think he really quits? No. Is it some drama? Yes. But sometimes you can only do but so much. And you have Andy's like, no, you don't quit. And Andy thinks him saying that's going to do something. And you have the other one saying, but your wife is still here. But that's it. That's part one. If I missed anything, please put it in the comments. And again, if you missed the series premiere of the Whether You Like It or Not reality TV show panel, season 3, this was episode 1 on Sky by Nature TV channel. Get your tickets over there and go watch it. Okay, we had some fun. Other than that, I guess my next video is, it's going to be Love and Marriage Huntsville, Real Housewives of Atlanta, and Jersey Part 2. And then DC will be added. I think the next Housewives, is it Beverly Hills? Is it Beverly Hills? I think it might be Beverly Hills. Whatever. But this month is full. Y'all gonna be getting a lot of regular reviews from me, so I hope you enjoy it. So, in essence, I'm back. So, yeah, with all that being said, I love you all. Y'all have a fantastic remainder of your week because, again, you won't see me either until Saturday night for Love and Marriage Huntsville or Saturday morning. So, with that being said, I will talk to you all later. Peace.